In our ancestral past, approach anxiety was a very real thing. In fact, a lot of guys don't understand what their real quality is if they're a really good looking guy, right? A guy like Justin Waller, a guy like Alan Richson, a guy like Jason Momoa, guys who are like the top echelon of like good looking dudes. Like they're built, they have symmetrical face, they've got, jawline, they've got, V taper, they've got maybe got six pack abs. Plus, they also have a lot of money. Plus, they're really funny. They're like the ultimate total package. As long as they are consistently rewarded with women's interest in them, then they understand that they are pretty good looking and they can leverage that. Most men never realize that. They never realize the fact that they are either good looking or they're just simply not good looking. I love it when I see these guys that talk about these stats about how men overestimate their sex appeal and women underestimate their sex appeal. No, they don't. Men understand they're ugly as shit. That's why 80% of guys are deemed unattractive. Men have kind of always known this. They've always known about the 80-20 rule, but they have never had it presented to them in black and white or have it like right in their face all the time. They haven't had the data sets to prove what their hunch was. I think we've always known this, but we're just more aware of the 80-20 rule. Now, what's the 80-20 rule? 80% of men are deemed or estimated to be unattractive by women. That's all it says. It's not about who's fucking who or anything like that. It's based on that one statistic. From Dr. David Buss, from Rob Henderson, will tell you exactly the same thing. That doesn't mean the remaining 20% are attractive. It just means they're not unattractive. It's just saying 80% of men are unattractive. That leaves 20%. There's your 80-20 rule right there. 80% of men are deemed unattractive. That's all you need to know. 20% of guys are maybes. That remaining 20% probably has to have some sort of value added that goes along with that. The 20% doesn't necessarily mean that those are attractive men. It just means that they might do. Of that 20%, 4.5% of men are attractive enough that women would initiate something. Those are the guys who don't have to worry about approach anxiety. Everyone else does. So don't think that you're special or you're paralyzed with fear, because in our ancestral past, approach anxiety was a very real thing. In fact, you are the descendant of a man who had approach anxiety and successfully got around it enough to reproduce. Congratulations, bravo. You're a success story. Well, your father and your grandfather were. They got over that fear. They bit the bullet. They went out there and they asked Susie out to the homecoming dance. Bravo, you exist. What are you going to do now? The reason why you have that in your psyche, your evolved mental firmware, is because you think about all the things that could go wrong. And so there's always going to be a hesitation. Now, remember that in our ancestral past, in our hunter-gatherer days, we might have lived in groups or tribes of anywhere between 100 and 150 individuals. At least that's the popular notion anyways. Of the 150 people that are in your tribe, how many of those in your tribe are female? Well, half. Okay, now we've narrowed it down to 75 individuals. Of that 75 individuals, how many of them are reproductive age? How many of those are eligible females who are single and unattached and don't have a warrior to wife them up? Of the 75, let's narrow it down to maybe there's 20. Of the 20 girls that you could get with, if you blew your approach, if you blew your chance, girls talk. If that one girl rejects you, the odds are the other girls are going to reject you too, because of what's known as mate choice copying. Mate choice copying, it means that, oh, if this guy's been accepted, then a guy who's similar to this guy will be accepted too. Mate choice copying. I want a guy like him. The problem is it also works in reverse. So if women reject that one guy, they're going to reject other guys that are sort of like that. And so what happens is this guy's a creep, and I'm going to tell all my girlfriends he's a creep. And guys who do the things that he does makes them creepy. So what happens is that one guy blows his shot at an approach. he's creepy. He's deemed creepy. The one girl he was going after tells all her friends, now there's only 20 because you're in the tribal clutch of 20 eligible females. Now, anybody who acts like him, talks like him, is awkward like him, doesn't get selected. So what happens? All the guys who watch him crash and burn, they don't want to do that either. So what happens is then it limits like memes, it limits behaviors, it limits ways of how to run game when you're on hunter-gatherer era. So you learn really quick. Now, the other thing is this, is of those 20, how many have jealous brothers? How many of them have fathers that will beat your ass into the ground if they don't approve of you? Now you can limit it down to maybe 10. It's mate guarding, but it's not really mate guarding. It's like a father who has female children, offspring. There is a defensive, innate protectiveness amongst human male fathers. That's why you used to ask for a woman's hand in marriage, because if there was a child that was produced between his daughter and that young man, now you're blending tribes. Now you're blending his family with your family, and maybe you don't want to be associated with that. Your daughter might go, but I love him. He's so hot. He looks like Jason Momoa on the Pleistocene. Okay, yeah, she thinks that, but she's not old enough and mature enough to make those decisions. That's why we still do an age of consent today.